everyone to our Light It Up TV podcast. Talk About It Tuesday. Listen, I am so super excited. I know I say that every week, but it just like the Lord has been blessing and it gets better and better every week. So thank you all. Hi, Lou. Hello, how are you? That's my mom. Hey, Toya. So glad that you all are on and joining us. So we have, first, I want to recap. I want you all first, if you have not shared it out, go ahead and share it. Share this video. We've been talking about children having a voice in the community, children having a voice in our schools. And tonight's discussion is probably one of the most important. Hello, Selena. Children having a voice in their families. The Lighted Up mission that the Lord gave is to teach children to have a voice and to use their voices in a positive way to impact their schools, their families, and their communities. Okay. So that is the mission. And we have been having this discussion. So we want you all to engage with us, join in with us on this discussion because I'm looking forward to it. Now, tonight we have two amazing guests with us. Minister Marvin Ash II and Ashley Hanna-Williams. Thank you all. Oh my goodness. Thank you all so much for taking out of your time. Now, Minister Marvin, I always like to say where I know you. I've known you when I was calculating, Minister Marvin, I've known you for over 14 years.
That sounds about right.
And you were mentoring my son, and he was a little fellow, and you weren't even married yet.
Yeah.
Now you are married with, tell us how many
children.
With four children. Tell us the ages.
My oldest son is 8. My daughter is 6. I have a 3-year-old son, and then I have a 1-year-old son.
Awesome. And so you are definitely listen, hats off, because you all have a wonderful mix with boys and girls and ages, and I just love it. So you're going to give some really good insight. Ashley from hometown Williamsburg County. Yeah. Listen, Ashley, listen, I've known you and your family for a long time, and your husband's family for a long time, right? So
yes, ma'am.
And even you, I realized, oh, I knew your mom. I was like, oh my goodness, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So tell us, Ashley, you have, how many children do you have, and then what grades are they?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashley Hanna-Williams, and I have 2 children. My daughter, she is in the 5th grade. She is 11 years old. And I have a son who is in the 1st grade, and he is 7 years old.
Awesome. So I want you will be able to give some good insight. You all will be able to give some great insight. And in the chat, we want you to engage with us. So let's jump right on in. We're not going to prolong time. First question is what I've been asking, but now we're asking about it in the family. Minister Marvin, we'll start with you. Why do you feel as a parent that it is important to teach your children to have a voice? Why do you think that's important? And then what is voice to you? What is voice to you? That's another question. When you say having a voice, what is voice? What does that mean for you?
So voice is being able to speak your truth, to speak what you feel, to share emotions in a manner that other people can receive them. And so in our home with our children, we want them to have a safe space to be able to express themselves. In a society where if they take your voice, anybody can lead you wherever they want you to go. We always share, hey, I may understand you may be upset, you may be excited, but I need you to stop and I need you to tell me what's going on. Are you hurt? Are you sad? How are you feeling? And so when we get them to do that at a young age, our 1 and 3-year-old can tell you, I'm hungry, I'm sad, whatever they're feeling. And so we need that, because if they don't have a space to share that at home, then they'll go out there in the world and they'll allow themselves to be led astray. So it is vitally important to make sure we just teach them, hey, speak. I know you might be crying, you might be sad. Stop, breathe, share with me how you're feeling. And I feel like that right there creates the pathway to having a voice.
I like that. To recap, so one of the things that I noticed that you said, because you think it's important to teach in your family so they don't go out looking for somebody else that's going to hear them. And I remember last week, Elder Baker said that. She said that children want to be heard and understood. Right? Those are the two things that we want to make sure. You all that are in the chat, let us know, why do you think it's important for your child to have a voice? Okay. Ashley, what about you in your children? Why in your family, why is it important for you to teach your children to have a voice?
For me personally, Miss Cheryl, having a voice and teaching our children to have a voice is important so that they can know how to communicate and navigate through life effectively. Because whenever they are not around us, whenever they are out in the world trying to make their own way, they need to know how to advocate for themselves. They need to know how to express themselves freely, respectfully. They need to know how to empower themselves, and they need to know how to make decisions. So allowing them to have a voice within the home cultivates that environment so that they can know how to navigate life efficiently.
I like that. I see that, Kim. Yeah. And Kim said the same thing what you said, being able to advocate for themselves whenever they're not around us, right? Because we all know that when they're not around us, that's when they may be presented with things that may be challenging, that may be the opposite of what we are teaching them at home, right? And so them being able to have that voice to advocate for themselves, whether it's an adult in a respectful manner or another child or another peer. So I think that is really good. I see that Latoya said a voice is important because without one, you are, thank you, Christina, you're guessing what the needs are. Wow, what's wrong, what's needed. If they can express themselves, it gives them confidence outside of the home. That is one thing, what, like you were saying, Minister Marvin, like them being able to express themselves and ask their questions. And Latoya, if I'm not mistaken, I think your daughter did a voice, they actually have some type of voice thing. If you might want to share that information at the end, some type of voice camp that your child attended, if I'm not mistaken. Christina, yes, welcome everyone. I want to say welcome. Kim said to teach them how to advocate for themselves when mom and dad is not around. If you are just joining us, we're talking about children having a voice in their families. Thank you so much for joining, and we're going to want you to engage with us. All right, so we talked about why is it important. So now the next question I want to ask you all is, how are you particularly teaching them? I know, Minister Marvin, you touched on a little bit of that. How are you teaching your children to have a voice? Ashley, I'll start with you this time. How are you teaching them? And then the other question that I wanted to know, parents that are online, let us know if you have some things that you are doing. Selena, navigating life. Yes, some things that My Voice is Powerful. That's the name of the program. Thank you, Latoya. That is a program that teaches children about their voice. So listen, I want you, if you have some things that you're doing at home, drop it in the comments. What are you doing to teach your children to have a voice in your family? Ashley, I want to know, is it different grade level, because you have a K through second boy, right? Your boy's in first grade, and then your daughter is in, your female, right? Your daughter, she's in fifth grade. Is it different for you? And every household is different. Is it different for you? And this question is to you all too, audience, between grade levels, like K through second, teaching them to have a voice, than it is third through fifth? Or is it different because teaching your son how to have a voice versus teaching your daughter how to have a voice? Is there a difference in there?
So for me personally, I don't think it's a difference in terms of gender more so than it is in terms of personality. So with my children, they have two totally different personalities.
Okay.
My son, he is very bold. He is very assertive. He is very confident in what he says and how he says it. Okay. Versus my daughter, she's very compassionate. She thinks about others' feelings. She's not as vocal. So for me, it's not necessarily the age difference or the grade. I think it's more so the personality difference. So those are my challenges whenever I'm teaching them how to have a voice effectively. My teachings are different depending on the child that I'm speaking to at that particular moment.
Wow. So, okay, that is good. So it is not necessarily like in your family, not by gender or by grade. It's more so their personality. And can you share a little bit what you were sharing when we were talking? You were saying that with your daughter, the things that you have to teach her because you said that she reminds you a lot of yourself.
Yes. So my daughter, she is honestly and truly your academic scholar. She excels in school. And for me, that was also me in school. However, we are also very reserved. We are very quiet. We are very observant, but we're not vocal in terms of standing our ground and communicating. So for me, that was something that I really struggled with as an adult. Whenever I went off to college, whenever I, started corporate America, that was something that I had to learn and grow within. And I had to pray about because I would be in meeting rooms, I would be in boardrooms, and I didn't know how to advocate for myself. I didn't know how to navigate those communications. I didn't know how to, have those conversations with senior leadership and so on and so forth. So for me, I had to take a deep dive into that and know this started as a child because I was, that child that was, seen and not heard, right? I was that child in the background. I was that child you never had to worry about. I was that child you told me to do something and I did it. I didn't question. I didn't think twice about it. And my daughter, I see that in her and I'm like, whoa, like I need to get a handle on this now because you are going to become an adult and you need to know how to have communication. You need to know how to communicate effectively. At the end of the day, for us, we communicate on a spectrum. So either we don't communicate at all, or when we communicate, it's here. And it shouldn't be here. And the reason why we communicate like that is because we don't know how to, I didn't know how to communicate. So if I'm talking about something, I didn't know how to have a decent conversation. It was either I'm saying nothing at all or I'm yelling and screaming. And that's very extreme. And that comes from not being taught how to communicate. So for me, I don't have to teach my son how to communicate because he knows how to come to me confidently and say, Mommy, I don't like that. Mommy, I didn't like how you said that to me. Mommy, can we have a discussion? Like, he's only 7 and he knows how to have those conversations. And I say that he gets that from his dad because his dad is a very effective communicator. But for my daughter, for me and her, we're still learning and we're learning together. And that's why I said that it has a lot to do with your personality, not necessarily your age or your gender.
Well, hats off to you, Ashley, baby girl, because you just communicated really well. And Ashley, you know what? As you were talking, one of the things that I thought about is, and you all can maybe relate to this, when you were saying that you weren't taught back then, growing up. I don't know if we were allowed to say, Mommy, I don't think that's right that you did that, without getting knocked upside the head, right? I mean, y'all help me out in the audience. Help me out if I'm wrong. I don't think that we were allowed to say that. Now, my personality, I was just talking. I was just talking. Latoya said smacked up. I was just talking. Yeah, right. I was just talking. I just love to talk, right? But I knew there were certain questions. Selena said backhand slap. So I think that played what do you all think? I think that played maybe some parts of, because and I will say even now, my mom is on here now, but even with my grandchildren, when I allow them, because I encourage them when I have them. That's why I said this is not just for parents, because as grandparents and aunties and uncles, we are all involved in the lives of our children, these kindergarten through fifth grade children. And even with my grandchildren, I allow them to share. I want to know, even though she's only 2.5, she's very vocal as well. Even though she's only 2.5, I am teaching her, like Marvin, you said with your baby.
Yeah.
She's able to say, no, Gigi, we were at the slide the other day, and I was telling her, Carter, I want you to take your time going across it. And she looked 2.5 years old, looked at me and said, Gigi, I'm not afraid, okay? Now, that might, to some, might say, well, was she being a little, disrespectful? But she was able to communicate with me. I know, but of course, I was able to guide her and say, okay, I know you're not afraid, but I still wanted to hear her. She knows that she's able to communicate that. Mm-hmm. So we have some good comments, and then Minister Marvin, we're going to go to you. But thank you, Ashley, because that's very good that you pointed out. But I think a lot of it may have been because we were not allowed. Right. All right, so let's look at Kim said expressing themselves. These are some of the things that she does: expressing themselves, setting aside circle time to have thoughtful discussions, ask more open-ended questions. So Kim, is that something that you all do like on a regular basis, or as the need comes up? All right, Latoya said, Libby, I have to channel her bold vocal. I don't want her to lose her voice, but just to help her channel how to use it. Mm-hmm. Especially if they're very vocal. That is true. Mm-hmm. That is true. If they're very vocal, they don't have the problem, like you said, with your son, Ashley. It's not that he has a voice. It's just channeling it and making sure that he's using it positively and not in that line between disrespect and voice, right?
There you go.
Yeah. And let's see. Selena, what she just said, definitely being taught how to communicate. I think that because that is something when we in first grade, some of our children, I will say, as an educator, they did not know when it was time to communicate. We teach them how to do reports and early, right? And they did not know, even with choosing a topic or just different little things. I did notice that some of them, did not have those communication skills that they didn't feel as comfortable with it, right? All right, so thank you. Seeing not heard, staying out of grown folks' business. That's what they used to say, Latoya. Do what I say. Yes, Latoya said there was no voice back then, right? Because if you did, it was considered being disrespectful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. This is good. Oh, what Lou said, my mom, let's see. Mom said, yes, the old tradition was a child is seen and not heard. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. And I will say, my mom told me she called me and she said, you know what? I want to apologize to you. After I listened to your podcast, I realized that I was a lot focused on how things were in the old days and how I was raised. And so she shared that. And I thought that's why she's a great grandmother, right? Mm-hmm. But hearing the podcast enlightened her that our children, these are different times. And we need to know, because we need to know what they are thinking, because as we said, they may not say it if we don't encourage them to, but thoughts are running through their minds all day, every day about what they're seeing and what they're hearing. All right, Minister Marvin, it's on you. Now, same question. Tonight's discussion is about children having a voice. If you are just joining us, Marvin, Minister Marvin.
No problem.
The question is, how do you teach your children to have a voice in your family? But then also that same question, do you notice a difference in your family with gender or with grade level? Is there a difference?
I will say some of my background, that I worked at DJJ for 7 years. And so when it comes to working with males and knowing how society works, I do overly express dealing with anger to my boys. It is something that I see working in the schools on a daily basis. when young men get upset and cannot vocalize. My oldest son, he expresses himself well, but he will get quiet when he gets angry. And so that's one of those things where we would stop. Hey, I know you're not happy with daddy because, daddy might have had to send you to your room, or there may have been something going on. And when we sit down, I said, I need you to breathe and I need to tell me what you're feeling. And so a lot of times, tears might come out and he might grit his teeth. But as we've developed that and went through that over the years, now he can say, I'm upset. Can I have a moment to breathe? Dad, I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to say anything out the way. Give me a moment. And so to me, that is progress, because the young men I work with on a daily basis, a moment of outlash can change your whole life. Coming from working at DJJ, I met so many young men who were absolutely brilliant, amazing young men. And it took one moment of them not expressing themselves well, or one moment of outburst, or not knowing how to use your voice, that changed their life. And so when I come to deal with my boys, I overly express. In this society, you cannot be an angry black man. I hate to say it that way, but it is the God honest truth. If you are upset, you are mad, you need to stop. You need to think. Think about the words that are coming out of your mouth, because your words are life. So if you get upset and scream, I'm going to kill that, or I'm going to kill you, you just spoke that into existence, son. So I need you to stop and breathe and then share. And so that's something I teach to every young man I come in contact with. Man, if you can stop and breathe for a moment. I know you're mad. I know you got all sorts of thoughts racing through your mind, but I need you to stop for a moment and process, because that processing part with young men is really, really hard. You got to process your emotions. You got energy. You want to do this, and you're hype. You're jumping around. Stop and process what you're really feeling. And with my daughter, she is, like you said, she's just a go-getter. She has a voice. We call her little mama. I mean, if
now,
they
is that
walk
the
in
first grader?
oh yeah, my first grader Bella, she is, I mean, she is a she is a force of nature. I mean, she could walk in there and all the boys would sit down because she said sit down. And so her voice is bold. And sometimes I have to tell her she does not believe she's a first grader. Like, she is a grown woman. They had a women's conference about a month ago, and she was like, I'm going to that. Baby girl, that's for the women. Well, I'm a woman today, and walked off. And I was like, Lord help me. So she is full of life, but I mean, she just speaks, and she speaks from her heart. She speaks effectively. And sometimes I have to deal with her with overtly communicating. Baby, some of those details didn't need to be let out. Let's slow down the conversation. You done said a little bit too much to people we don't know like that. So we just try to teach, how to express yourself and how to do it effectively. So that is what we do in our home.
Wow, you said a mouthful. I see that we have Selena said anger is a real issue. The Bible says be angry and do not sin. So anger is a real emotion, and knowing how to express it. And the fact that you said with the boys, I think that is definitely major, with teaching our sons and the young men that we come into contact with. Like, wow, I can remember having my son to quote scriptures. I'm slow to anger. He that is slow to anger is stronger than the mighty. Because as you just brought back memories when you were saying that, because he would just get really angry with his sister, or just just angry about different things. And I just remember teaching him, like, trying to teach him the same thing, like, you have to be able to control. And it's so funny that you just get that correlation with the boys, that the sons, like, that is major. That you said that, because I didn't, we thought about all the other things, but I didn't think about the anger issue. So with the sons, can anybody relate to that? Kim, was that you saying that with your son? Ashton, yes, we have to teach that to our sons. That's Ashley's husband. and and Toya said that her daughter Libby is Bella's cousin. that they actually are very, very vocal. Okay. Yes. Okay. So Kim said yes, absolutely. The anger that she has to teach her son. Okay, that's good to know. Okay. And so you said it's not grade, it's not anything, do you not necessarily grade level, but with yours is are you saying that it's basically personality as well? Or
I believe it is a mixture of personality. Personality plays a large part as
mm-hmm,
they grow and evolve their emotions and how they express themselves.
mm-hmm,
It'll kind of give us guidelines as parents on how to teach them, how to raise them. I know we got into this conversation, but you know, working with your children is probably one of the closest ways that we get to live out our example of how God works with us. And so sometimes when
talk
I'm
on that.
talking to them, I'm literally like, "Hey, son, do you not understand what I do for you? Do you listen to what I do? I provide for you. I give you your food every day. I protect you. Why would you not trust the words I say?" In those moments,
Mm-hmm,
God will be like, "Message." Tap you on your shoulder. It's the same thing. So as we see their emotions and personalities evolve, you have to evolve your style of how to teach them. So you know your
mm-hmm,
son
mm-hmm,
or daughter in first grade may be feeling one type of way. They may be trying to join in with their friends and, express themselves. I want to be seen. In third grade, they may be feeling like, okay, I'm smarter now. They're kind of treating me differently because I get to sit with this
mm-hmm,
group and I want friends. And so, you have to literally teach at that moment. I feel like they will fluctuate and they will change as life goes on, just like us as humans. Sometimes
mm-hmm,
we're up and sometimes we're down. Sometimes our emotions are good,
mm-hmm,
everything's good. It's rainbows and
mm-hmm,
sunshine. God doesn't have to say nothing to us quickly because we're running with it.
uh-huh.
And then there's times when we're not
Yeah.
feeling the best and we're in our emotions and we're struggling to express ourselves. And we have to
Mm-hmm.
believe and know the same way that God treats us and shows us. We have to do that same example to our kids. So I believe it's a
Yeah.
mixture. It just depends on the moment in time. You got to flow with it.
That is so good. That is so good. We have to flow with it. And that is so true because there are certain times when that you think about with us. When you brought that home with us, the way that we communicate and the way that maybe the people that are in our circle communicate with us is different depending on what we may be feeling or how we may be feeling at that time, right? The way we respond back to them might be different, depending on how we're feeling. This is a really great discussion. I really thank you all for sharing that. Being that the things I want to recap, the things that I heard Ashley say is teaching them that communication, how to effectively communicate so that when they get to be an adult and as they grow, and it's a process. Like Ashley, I think what you said, that it is a process of how that happens. It's not just like a one time, but it's a process even throughout, even as you're an adult now, just continuing to put those things into practice, especially. And I think it's especially being able to observe and know the personalities of our children is so good. And then Minister Marvin, what you're saying is taking that step back to breathe. Yeah, and allowing them, right? Because somebody said when you was talking about saying that your son like would say, "I just need time to myself." Again, back in the day, if you try to walk off while somebody, while they're trying to have a discussion, with you, you don't. It's like we didn't have that. I need while you talking to me, and I'm going to tell my mom, I need some time. Give me a minute. Kim said, "Child, please," like that. That would give me a minute while I'm talking to you. Like that's considered. Oh, so you trying to be grown? But today is different. The challenges that we've already, talked about that they deal with, they need that time, as you said, processing. So that is it. Is there any last words that you all have that you want to share? Any questions that you all have for Marvin and Ashley before we go? Any questions?
Well, while they say that, and while they type that out inside of the chat, Miss Cheryl, I do want to make a comment
Mm-hmm.
about how your mom apologized.
Mm-hmm.
That is not a practice that
Right.
I am used to experiencing as a culture. And what I mean by that is she's apologizing for something she, in retrospect, had absolutely nothing to do with. And I'm explaining to you what I mean by that. I think a lot of those teachings, the seen, not heard deal, I think that comes from intergenerational trauma within the Black community.
Yeah.
That
Speak on that.
stems from slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of what we were exposed to was cultural suppression.
Mm-hmm.
We were exposed to educational barriers. So
Mm-hmm.
there was no way to communicate effectively because we just didn't have the education to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of intimidation from several parties that were, you know, basically took a hand in our suppression. So a lot of things that we experience, or the teachings that we experience, we're trying to unlearn those
wow.
because it's generational. Is the best way that I can describe it is intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
And we're all working through it. We're all trying to navigate this space, and we're all trying to unlearn literally hundreds of years of teachings. And I commend your mother for apologizing for something she had absolutely nothing to do with. She was just doing what she was taught.
Yeah. Yeah.
And until we learn better, until we learn to, you know, break away from those teachings, we're going to continuously go down that path. So I applaud all of us for actively trying to break the cycle.
Yes.
It's not easy for us to take a step back and actually parent, because we're so used to operating out of survival. We're so used to operating out of, I'm just trying to make it to the next day.
Yeah.
It's not easy sitting down and having circle time. It's not easy sitting down and explaining things. It's not easy sitting down and actually hearing your child out whenever you have bills to pay, whenever you have a 12-hour shift you need to go clock in for, you have dinner to cook, you have homework to complete, you know, you have parent-teacher conferences to schedule and sports to attend. It's not easy. So I commend all of us for breaking the chains on this generational curse that is upon us of communicating effectively, or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. That is so powerful. Wow. You about to have me tear up, Ashley, but yeah, I mean, it's just true. You know, everything that you said is true. And I think that is the reason why we want to have these discussions too, as parents, to let you know you're not going through it. You know, as family, we're not going through it by yourself. Mommy said that's good, Ms. Ashley. Yeah. That you're not, that parents are not going through it, aunties, uncles, that you're not going through it by yourself. Kim said, listen, like she can relate like that. I would say that when I did the survey, that was the thing whenever that the parents said, how do we do it all? Like life is be lifing is what they said. Like Ashton said, life is busy. You know, we have to slow down and speed up. And it was across the board, the survey from parents, different backgrounds, different economic status. But the thing that was the same is how do we handle the challenge as a parent was how do we handle everything when life is life and then I have this to do and I have that, you know, these things that are upon me to do, but then I have you know, my child that definitely needs that time, right? Like that is just like you said, that is for all of us. Marvin, Minister Marvin, any last words that you want to share?
I mean, that statement right there, that could start a whole other conversation in itself. But I mean, what I would say is you have to prioritize the time. Whenever the time presents itself, you have to step back in your own self and prioritize that moment. A lot of times in our hecticness, we can miss the moment. And so when your child is, they're upset or they're going through a moment, sometimes we have to breathe ourselves and look at them and think about how can this moment affect them. And so a lot of times we have to prioritize as parents. Man, I'm telling you, you see me in the car for a reason. We got ballet and jazz, we got track practice. So I'm sitting in the car, the light came on, somebody popped up, hey, I'm live. But we honestly, we have to prioritize the moment. So what we have to do is have enough peace inside of us. Our prayer life, we have to be patient enough and calm enough to see the moments, because that stress and that worry will get you to a point where you will miss it. So in the hustle of the day, that you have a time to drop a major seed, a major nugget in your child's life. And so I always say, if you can, when the time presents itself, prioritize the time. That thing will be there later. You can go to the grocery store after that. But when the moment presents itself, we need to be wise enough and have enough discernment to see the moment and speak and plant the seed when the moment presents itself.
Seize the moment. Seize the moment. Thank you so much. This was really good. Seize the moment. You all left us with some really great words. Seize the moment. And then Ashley, when you said that this is something that is beyond us from years, that we have to relearn, how to do it. Thank you all so much. I know your time is valuable. Minister Marvin, you all have, as you all said, so many things. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Let us know if there's anything. Was this discussion helpful? Let us know in the chat. Please let us know if the discussion was helpful or not. Thank you all, Ashley, Minister Marvin. Thank you all. You all have a blessed day, everyone. Blessed evening. Until next time, remember to light it up.